So hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. Every opportunity to be together with friends and especially with Christos and the labyrinth is very welcome. And actually, I will be talking about something very close to the things that the labyrinth of Catalonia and other similar institutions are connected with. So my title today is Beyond the Hype, Envisioning Sustainable Futures for Greek Musical Traditions. So why this question now? If you've been to a traditional Greek festival or panegyri recently on an island, in a mountain village, or even in an Athenian neighborhood square, you've probably noticed traditional musics are far from disappearing. On the contrary, they feel more alive and in many ways more central than ever. Over the last decade, and especially after COVID, Greek musical traditions have seen a strong revival. What we call urban panegyria, αστικό πανηγύρι, or even metapanegyri, are now appearing in city squares. Island and mainland feasts are drawing large audiences of both locals and visitors. Folk tunes are increasingly woven into live concerts across genres, from endechno to rock to laiko. For many young people, these events provide their first embodied encounter with tradition. Can you sound? So one striking example of this revival circulated widely last year, the panoramic video from a Socrates Malamas concert at Rizoupolis Stadium. In the footage, thousands of people danced the Ikariotikos, a dance originating in the island of Ikaria, in endless concentric circles. The image is almost psychedelic, movement and rhythm blending into an ecstatic swirling vortex. On social media, some compared it to a Van Gogh canvas, a living, breathing painting made of bodies and sound. So why does this matter? Traditional music today plays multiple roles. It can be a marker of identity and collective belonging, connecting people to place, ancestry, and shared memory. It can also mark difference, signaling borders and power hierarchies, something made clear recently in the Panegyria of Florina, northern Greece. Though I will not be focusing on this particular aspect of tradition and Panegyria today. At the same time, it is a vital resource for local communities, economically, culturally, and socially. And increasingly, it has become a form of consumption and spectacle, packaged, marketed, and sold as an experience. The complexity of tradition, of music tradition, is not new, but it is now more visible and accelerated in our current moment of economic, ecological, and social crisis. Which brings me to the key question guiding this talk today. Can traditional music be more than just a musical project? Can it also be a political project, one that shapes how we imagine and build sustainable futures? Put differently, how do we learn and maintain the logic of sustainabilities and commons through music traditions? So to approach this question, we need to consider two guiding ideas. Sustainabilities, which are not just ecological, but also cultural and social, sustaining communities' practices and values of sharing and reciprocity. And the commons, which emerge when music is shared and lived collectively, modeling alternative ways of living together beyond mere consumption. So in this talk, I want to explore with you how traditional music in Greece is being reshaped today, circulating between village feasts and local communities and urban and transnational festivals and networks, and what this can tell us about identity, community, and the future of culture in times of crisis. So before we start, 3 quick notes about perspective and purpose. The first is that one thread of my long-term research on Greek popular and traditional music has been our ethnographic work with Sisi Theodosiou on particular music, tourism, and summer music seminars, particularly at Music Village in Pilion and Labyrinth Musical Workshop in Koudeitsi, Crete, which was published in 2020. So today, I will draw on that work to explore these practices through the lens of sustainability, a new angle for me that opens up fresh questions, even though I haven't done dedicated research on this topic yet. So rather than offering fixed conclusions, I want to open this talk as a space for dialogue. Many of you here bring direct experience from these very fields. In Spain, the pressures of aggressive, is there anyone from Spain? The pressures of aggressive tourism and cultural exploitation have often arrived earlier, in some ways more forcefully than in Greece. And many of you are directly involved in various types of music making. So I see this as an opportunity both to share reflections from the Greek case and, just as importantly, to learn from your perspectives in return. And finally, a word on terminology. So in ethnomusicology and cultural theory, we are always careful with terms like traditional music and community because they carry ideological assumptions and can be exclusionary. For the sake of time today, I will use them descriptively to refer to rural and urban popular music practices and the people who engage with them, without implying, however, that these practices are in any way timeless, uniform, or inherently good or bad. We can return to this discussion at the end if there is time. So with this context in mind, let's step back and see how we got here. From the traditional village panegyri to the new urban and festival scenes that are reshaping how traditional music is performed and experienced translocally today. So to start with the panegyri, the village feast. Traditionally, these festivals were deeply embedded in local life, often tied to the celebration of a saint, so religious panegyria, and fostering social bonds through music, dance, and collective participation. But village and urban popular music making have never been isolated from one another. Historically, migration and travel ensured constant exchange. So an example is Δημοτικάδικα, folk music venues, which appeared in cities, while also bouzoukia and laiko, urban popular music, made their way into village feasts. The musicians' own itineraries, moving between countryside and city, testify to the flows between musical worlds throughout the 20th century. What's new today isn't the interaction itself then, it's the speed and the scale. Festivals now circulate faster, gain attention more quickly, and grow into large festivals in ways that would have been unimaginable before digital media, mass tourism, and online word of mouth accelerated the process. And in this new festival ecology, a new figure, or for some, an old figure with a new name, has emerged, the Faseos. So who is the Faseos? To get an idea, let's watch the satirical video by Luben TV, the 15th of August of the Faseos. It parodies the ritual of festival tourism in a series of sketches. I will translate now. So the sketches are the vibe before the trip, the Instagram stories on the ferry, the accommodation, the panegyri, the supposedly hidden beach, the food, the shoes, the stories on the island, and life in nature.
Πού πάμε?
Νάξο.
Πόσες μέρες θα κάτσετε?
5.
Βρήκατε καλές τιμές?
Όχι.
Βρισκόμαστε μέσα στο λαγούμι όπου έχει φτιάξει η οικογένεια αυτή των παλαιοχριστιανών στην ορεινή Κορινθία.
Αριστούργημα!
Θέλουμε να το πει γιατρός.
Πάτε καλά.
Έχω μια πείνα, δεν σας βλέπω.
Εγώ λέω να φάω αλλιώτα. Δεν ξέρω τι είναι, αλλά μου αρέσει το όνομα.
Τέτοιοι είστε.
Ιδέα. Action!
Θέλεις να γίνεις viral προφανώς,
Γαμώ τον κόκορα!
Γρηγόρη, πότε θα φύγουμε? Δεν αντέχω άλλο εδώ. Έχει πολύ καθαρό αέρα, δεν μπορώ να ανασάνω. Μου λείπει το νέφος, το τσιμέντο, τα τρόλε, η βαβούρα, το ποτηλιάρισμα.
Μα τι λέει αυτός ο άνθρωπος?
Αλλά αυτοί είστε.
So the Phaseos is the person who shows up for the hype or for the vibe, an experience seeker, moving from one consumable moment to the next. If they had a motto, it might be summed up in a single phrase. Let's go sweat it out. Πάμε να υδρώσουμε. Dancing until they drop, from fully immersed in the moment. This satirical exaggeration that we just saw reflects a real trend. Panegyria and festivals are increasingly consumed as lifestyle experiences shared through Instagram stories and hashtags as much as through songs and dances. Facets have been accused of disrespecting cultural norms and in one extreme case even being implicated in a forest fire. Importantly, this figure is also a generational marker, circulating widely on TikTok and Instagram, often depicting Generation Z. The Phaseos is therefore not just a real participant, not even if he is a real participant, but also an iconic figure, signaling both moral panic and, more importantly for our talk today, highlighting anxieties about what happens when panegyria become purely experiences of and for consumption. We saw this anxiety surface very clearly in a widely shared Facebook post by Pantelisa Yutandis, a violinist from Sifnos who grew up in Athens and returned to live on the island after completing his studies in agronomy. The post was co-signed by the musicians he regularly plays with at Panegyria. He reminded readers that Sifnian Panegyria are grounded in hospitality and devotion. The food, the wine, and the music are all freely offered by the Panegyrades, the hosts. But with the surge of visitors coming just for the φάση, για όλη αυτή τη φάση, he says, rituals were ignored, trash was left behind, and even the church donation box, το παγκάρι, went empty despite locals covering chapel maintenance. Ayutantes called for respect for the space, folklore, and music, urging against copying other festival models from other islands and stressing the preservation of Sifnian norms and repertoires. And this concern isn't unique to Sifnos. Similar trends appear elsewhere. In some formerly closed rural communities of mainland Greece, Panegyria now feature repertoires from across Greece, with people dancing primarily to island tunes, unthinkable a generation ago. The song "To Glendi" was composed about 20 years ago by Nikos Ikonomidis, a violinist from Schinoussa, born into a renowned musical family, raised in the festival traditions of the Kyklades, and dedicated to the preservation of the island's rich musical ecology. Today, the song has become wildly popular, bearing witness to traditional music, especially island dances, being consumed as hype music to dance to. Because it's late and I think we need to lighten up a bit the talk, I have one more Luben TV.
Here we go. Ακούμε το ίδιο τραγούδι. Και ξέρει αυτός ότι ακούμε το ίδιο τραγούδι.
Χρήστο, γιατί θα το σπάσω.
Έλα μωρέ Κυριάκο, είσαι πολύ καθημερινός.
Θα το σπάσω, δεν είναι δυνατόν. Θα το σπάσω.
Να πάμε σε μια τηλεφωνική γραμμή. Ναι, γεια σας.
Κλείστο! Κλείστο, σου λέω!
Coming back to Ayutantis, his post went viral and the comments became a kind of collective confession. Support poured in from Sifnos, but also from Ikaria, Kithnos, Drama, Nausa, and beyond. Everyone recognized the same issue. Panegyria are at risk of turning into mass party events, their commodification signaling a cultural grey out or homogenization of the traditions. Suggestions emerged: educating visitors, posting humorous rules, introducing symbolic fees, even reducing overexposure on social media. But the common thread in all these responses was clear: a wish for Panegyria to retain their local cultural specificity and mystagogit dimension, not to collapse into just another form of alternative nightlife. This phenomenon ties into a parallel trend, the changing role of traditional musicians. Today, digital literacy and online promotion is almost as important as instrumental skill, shaping a musician's career. Musicians are also less tied to a single idiom. Many move across repertoires and styles with ease. Although this is not a new phenomenon, state music schools have played a major role since the late 90s, cultivating a generation of players who are more mobile, connected, and versatile. At the same time, festivals and even entire islands are being touristically rebranded. What were once primarily community celebrations are now marketed as destinations. Travel sites compile lists of the top 10 panegyria you must attend, packaging these events alongside beaches, restaurants, and nightlife. Traditions become products for tourism. This may generate income and visibility for host communities, but it also risks turning distinct local traditions into standardized packages tailored to tourist expectations. So for us as ethnomusicologists and cultural theorists, the key question is how to theorize traditions today. Earlier scholarship described the Glendi, communal song and dance producing shared kethi, as a symbolic village, showing how communities enact belonging through music. But what happens when the symbolic village is rebuilt not only in dance and song, but also on Instagram feeds, Airbnb listings, and tourist blogs? Tradition is no longer just embodied and performed, it is curated, branded, and circulated digitally. We need frameworks to understand these shifting intersections of tradition, tourism, and digital culture. You could say the panegyri today is both a ritual feast and a trending hashtag. The question is, how do communities maintain the depth and sacredness of the tradition while at the same time engaging with or resisting those who come only for the vibe? And what is the role of musicians, both local and visiting, in navigating these tensions? So let's zoom out now for a moment to the broader context. And here's where we might bring in the idea of slow tourism. Just as slow food movement asks us to savor, respect, and support local foodways instead of devouring them fast and cheap, slow tourism encourages ways of traveling that are more respectful, sustainable, and community-based. The same logic applies to music. How do we engage with traditions slowly, deeply, and responsibly instead of consuming them as quick vibe experiences? Imagine walking through a forest. One perspective says, this is X tons of timber, of wood, or maybe the perfect backdrop for Instagram. Another perspective says, this is a community of beings, trees, birds, humans, traditions, all interdependent. The same is true for music. Across Europe and certainly in Greece, local communities today face enormous pressures. Natural resources are stretched. Tourism often explodes beyond what infrastructure can handle, and new energy projects, wind farms, solar parks, sometimes arrive with little consultation of residents. Policy often frames this in economic terms as natural capital or ecosystem services. In that logic, a forest is timber, a lake is cubic meters of water, a coastline is hotel beds or tourist experiences. Cultural heritage too gets drawn into this frame, a service to be packaged and consumed. But this framework can be limiting if it commodifies both nature and culture, setting humans apart from the ecosystems they depend on. This is exactly the critique that American ethnomusicologist Jeff Todd Titon has raised. When growth and efficiency are the main goals, he says, ecological balance and community well-being are pushed aside. The alternative is what Titon and others call eco-justice. Instead of treating nature as a stock of resources, eco-justice asks us to imagine humans as part of a wider ecological community, one in which rights and responsibilities are shared not only among people, but also with animals, plants, land, and waters. So for Greek traditional music, this perspective is crucial. Festivals, songs, and communal practices are not just entertainment, they are woven into the ecological and social fabric of a place. But when panegyria are rebranded as mass-market tourist products, they risk being detached from that fabric, consumed and exploited without sustaining the communities that keep them alive. So, if we take eco-justice as a guiding principle, then traditional music itself can be seen as a model of sustainability. I'm not sure if you can see this now.
Yes, we can see the image. Yeah.
No, you're supposed to see also. I need to share. I need to exit. Sorry. Stop sharing and share again. Maybe I'll share my desktop and the sound. Okay. Okay, so.
Οι γονείς μου ήταν μουσικοί. Τα αδέρφια μου όλα ήταν μουσικοί. Οι γονείς μου ήταν μουσικοί.
So think of a village panegyri. Knowledge is passed from elders to younger musicians, often orally and experientially. Instruments are repaired and handed down, not discarded. Songs and dances reinforce bonds across generations. Food, drink, and music are shared communally and with responsibility. In other words, sustainability is not something imposed from outside. It is already embedded in the practices of traditional music. This is exactly what Titon means when he describes music cultures as ecosystems. From ecology, we can discern four broad principles that help us think about sustainability in music. The first is diversity. Musical traditions thrive when multiple voices, repertoires, and styles coexist. The second is limits to growth. Just as endless expansion is unsustainable in ecosystems, the same is true for music. The third is connectedness. So every element of a musical community, songs, instruments, dancers, audiences, affects the other. And the fourth is stewardship. Musicians and communities act as caretakers, not as owners. Traditional music instills care for instruments, peers, and the cultural environment, showing how preservation and creativity coexist. So instead of treating traditional music as a product to be extracted and sold, we can recognize it as a cultural commons. The lessons of communal music making echo the lessons of eco-justice. Care for your neighbors, care for your instruments, care for the land. When those forms of care align, everyone thrives together. And this, I'd argue, is where traditional music has something truly powerful to teach us. It shows how creativity and sustainability can go hand in hand, offering models for more equitable futures. So the challenge is, how do we take these insights, eco-justice, the sustainability lessons embedded in tradition, and rethink the frameworks we use as participants in these musical worlds? So I'm coming to my last example, my main example rather. Let's turn to a fascinating and for many of us here familiar phenomenon, summer music workshops such as Labyrinth Musical Workshop in Houdetsi, Crete, in Catalonia. and Music Village in Pelion. These are short but intense seminars where musicians from across the world gather for a week or two to study, collaborate, and live together. Many of you may have participated as teachers, students, or organizers, and I should note here that this section draws on my joint work with Sisi Theodosiou on participatory music tourism. I present this case study, Summer Music Seminars, as one example among many of how host and translocal musical communities can collaborate to foster sustainable and responsible engagement with musical traditions. There are many other approaches, and I invite you to share your own thoughts in the discussion that will follow. What makes these workshops unique is that they function as transnational communities of practice. Participants don't just absorb technique, they build social relationships that connect them to their peers, to the local community, and to wider global networks of musicians. As Bolderman, a researcher, observes, these gatherings create a layered sense of belonging within the seminar group itself, so a temporary but very powerful community of learning, within the host village community, with the host village community, so participants stay, eat, and perform in the host village, sometimes together with locals, co-creating a cultural space. And finally, with a wider transnational community of a musical genre or practice, whether modal traditions, new modal traditions, improvisational idioms, Mediterranean repertoires. In the case of Labyrinth, these connections often outlast the summer. Musicians reconnect at concerts or festivals elsewhere, or even establish new labyrinths abroad. The workshop becomes a hub in global network, producing musicians who act as cultural brokers between communities. Music Village adds another layer. The environment, both natural and architectural, is not a backdrop but part of the learning process. Workshops unfold in courtyards, small churches, forest clearings, even abandoned army barracks. The place itself shapes the experience, encouraging a kind of embodied awareness of music in relation to setting. The openness and flow of these encounters affect not only the artistic results, but also the participants' sense of self as musicians. Could you see the example?
Yes, the video of Music Village, yeah.
Okay. So for local and host communities, these workshops can have tangible positive impacts, economic boosts to small villages, international visibility and cultural prestige, and cultural reinvigoration, quiet places transformed into vibrant hubs of creativity. But these benefits depend on balance. The Hudetsi Festival, born from Labyrinth, at one point drew 50,000 visitors, so many that it strained local infrastructure and even threatened the priorities of the workshop itself. Similarly, Music Village had to pause temporarily when visitor numbers, particularly non-musicians, coming only for the vibes, overwhelmed organizers and locals. In both cases, the result was the same, operational strain and a stretch on capacity, making it difficult to sustain the quality, focus, and intimacy that had made these gatherings so special. So what we see here is that workshops can serve as laboratories for sustainable cultural exchange, but they also remind us of a critical lesson: scale matters. When the numbers become too large, the delicate equilibrium between participants, locals, and ecosystems begins to break down. So the ongoing challenge is to keep the balance. Sustainability in music is not about preserving repertoire or idealizing an authentic past. It's about creating practices that recognize both the care and the exclusions embedded in tradition, while empowering musicians, audiences, and especially local communities as active agents of cultural and ecological stewardship. Traditional musics can be more than a musical practice. They can be a political one. By valuing the commons, shared stewardship, and long-term engagement, they offer models with tangible cultural, social, and environmental impact. The challenge is clear. How do we sustain the logic of the commons through traditional music, ensuring that visiting musicians and host local communities thrive together? So one way to think about this is by contrasting two models, the hype model of quick and mass consumption and a slower model of musicking, slow musicking, much like slow food or slow tourism, which reimagine our relation to eating and traveling. This slower model centers musicians, audiences, and host communities alike. It invites deep, responsible engagement, drawing lessons from music as eco-justice, connecting people to each other and to place. Such a model is not only cultural but political, a stake in shaping more equitable futures for humans, plants, animals, and lands. I'm closing with these reflections which draw on my ethnomusicological research in Greece, focusing on musicians, their learning, networks, and transnational communities. Yet sustainability cannot rest on musicians alone. Local communities set the tone, shape events, and determine whether cultural, economic, and ecological benefits are shared. So these are ideas today are offered as a starting point. Many of you here are musicians, researchers, and cultural organizers with deep knowledge and lived experience. So I'd like to end with an open question. How do you imagine sustainable futures for traditional music in your own contexts and in your own communities? This is where I'd love us to open a discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eleni. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I'm not sure whether to unpin you. Maybe I will. So, so whoever wants to ask a question, you can, just jump in. If you see that another person is talking, maybe you can raise your hand from the reactions or in the chat or whatever you want. So, ναι, Michali.
Thank you very much, Eleni, for this thoroughly amazing speech. Very inspiring. There are many thoughts. I have many thoughts, and some are not easy to open in this discussion. But one question which rises to me is how social media affects all of this hype, and these actually, especially the last 5 maybe to 10 years, with this amazing bombardment. I don't know if it's the correct English word for this, but of different platforms, and anyway, technology get into these localities. And I will give you an example of a very personal experience, actually very recent experience. I was in a kind of similar occasion in Cyprus, here in Cyprus, in a fest, wine, Choros του Κρασιού. It's an annual fest for the last 50 years, 60 years or something. Anyway, now it's declining, but I was on stage, and one of my peers, one of my colleagues, before the concert, even while we're doing the sound check, she was filming me, she was filming the musicians, and creating some kind of reel. And it was already live in Facebook. And once I understood this, I stumbled and I stopped. And I asked her, what is this about? And she says, it's real. It's about promoting the event for people to come and to, it's a real. So she expected me to accept and to agree on that anyway. Long story short, I didn't accept that, and I asked her to stop filming and to immediately erase this live link in Facebook and other social platforms. And yeah, it's frightening. It's frightening. It's really frightening. I mean, we don't have any personal space anymore. I think the boundaries of exclusivity and inclusivity are so much blended. And yeah, that's quite shocking to me. Yeah, that's all for now. Thank you.
Shall I respond, or Christo?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Just a few thoughts. I'm sure others too would like to, step in and comment on Michalis. Thank you very much, Michali. I think this is all very new, especially for my generation, where, we are still striving with all these new digital things that are happening so fast. But it seems that for a younger generation, it is actually part of your portfolio. This is why I said that musicians, this part of digital work, digital labor is a nice word for it, is almost, you cannot do without it anymore. And what you were saying reminded me of something I heard in the past. Well, I'm not sure which people do that, but so I won't say that, but I think it is some tribe. Anyway, a friend of mine was saying how for some people, even the flight, to fly and reach somewhere is something that they need to take some time for their soul to reach. So their body has reached there, but their soul is not still there. So I think this makes a very nice counterexample to what this phenomenon we are describing. On the other hand, I think that the digital tools, which we should definitely not demonize, are also there as tools to aid the host communities. So in this example from Sifnos, I'm not sure if Iris Molivda is here, who is doing her dissertation thesis on this topic, the Sifnos Panigiri. She was telling me that the musicians, after this post that was posted last year, are quite happy with how people have been attending Panigiria this year. So it seems that this effort to sort of communicate their concerns about the way people are coming or arriving to Panigiria seems to have had an impact because precisely they were able to circulate their concerns online.
Somebody else would like to comment? Yeah, personally, Michalis, what I'm thinking about what you talked about is, I mean, there's this new possibility of doing everything at the same time. No, this movie, no, everything. How is it called? Everywhere and all that at the same time, no. So I feel it's a kind of a mirror. It shows actually how, or it puts in a kind of trial, or to see how we're acting when we don't have like one food but 10 or 15, and say, okay, is it good for us to eat 15 things at the same time? Because it seems that the zapping, the first reaction is to do everything at the same time, no? To see all the videos, but of course then we see much less from everything, no? So I think it does affect also Panigiri. I mean, my experience from Mokleti or Panigiria, and also from concerts, no? Because I mean, there's this good part that you can reach more people and make what you're doing more known, but at the same time, many times you're filled in a room with absent people, and I think we can all agree that what gives power to music and dance and sharing beat for dancing or for listening to a more other style of music is when people are really present, and there. So I think that it's a matter of a culture of understanding that when to do what and how does this affect, because I mean, if she was doing it like maybe more far away from you or in a way that is not very intrusive, then it would be like maybe accepted, or it would not affect what's happening. But yeah, I agree. It's a big part of our experience, and of course, it's not only in music; it's also in the metro, when you're walking in the streets, everywhere. No, I mean, but yeah. From my part, because I'm not living in Greece the last 10 years, many of the things you were talking about today, Eleni, for me are quite. I mean, I listen to it about from far away, but not being there, I kind of not follow so much. Yes, so it was interesting to listen about the facet and all these things.
But I am sure that having lived in Spain for many years now, maybe the idea of slow tourism might ring a bell. I don't know, we've been following things in Spain with these very aggressive models of tourism. Maybe there is here a parallel or something that, for a person in Spain, they can make a parallel.
I mean, from what I see, there's not like somebody like Spanish. Maybe a person like that could maybe talk more with more experience. But yes, I'm in and out in Spain the last maybe 20 and something years. But what I've seen here is that I mean, I don't, as you know, I'm not a specialist in traditional Spanish music, so I cannot give a real parallel of how traditional music, for example, from Valencia or Galicia or other places works. But what the first thing you see here, especially in the part of the eastern Spain, is that the construction and the way that villages or cities, I would say, are built, totally block the way to the sea. So there was, because I guess it is a complex issue of many reasons why it happened, but I guess also the 40 years of dictatorship of Franco also left some things more without any control from a state that was from a more social state, no? But I'm living here near Barcelona, and here we do see movements from the political establishment, from municipality many times, that go contrary to this wave, no, of consumism. For example, they're talking about reducing Airbnb, and I think this is getting now to Athens, no? I heard also that is coming, yeah. So I'm not really sure what. I don't have like a clear view of what the parallels would be, but I have felt many times that here the local traditions are not so alive, and I think this is something that also the Spanish people themselves say. I don't want to be radical to say, Spain, Greece, not to make a totally comparison from one country to the other, but on a local, I don't think there are so many local traditions that have been kept alive here. In Greece, it seems like just the number, and also the how do you call it, το μέγεθος?
The size.
The size is smaller, so it's maybe because of geographical and political and economical reasons, more small traditions were kept, and this kind of panegyri, maybe I'm not a specialist. I don't base this information on research, but on just traveling around and talking with people. There are some places where tradition is strong, like Galicia, from what I hear, is especially where many young people play the traditional music is something very strong. But in Catalonia, I wouldn't say so. There are some similar things happening with Labyrinth, similar but not the same exactly as Encuentros de Raíz, for example, that I have in mind, that musicians like Eliseo Parra, Alex Tobias, the group Coetus, that have drawn a lot of interest of young people towards, panderetas, percussion, singing, and this is very nice to see how they're. And I think for you also, Eleni, it would be interesting to check them out because I think they have some kind of this slow food a bit mentality in them. Yes, Michalis.
In Galicia, you said, Christo.
Yes, also, yes.
Here in Cyprus, we have this hype of, the renaissance of traditional music for the last years. But I'm afraid, although there are many, many good quality musicians getting out of universities and getting established here in the island, I think we musicians are quite like in ghetto, like in a bubble where we share these experiences and these concerns, but the community out there is not really educated, and their own understanding of how you vision the development of the rural areas of the island, how it should be, is completely different than I do, for example, or how music festivals should be. Do we need an organizer who has experience in music production and to be like a programmer, or someone who has money and he can bring anyone in the world? So it's really complex, and I think first of all we need to educate the public and the average people here, because we have an amazing establishment of amazing musicians, ethnomusicologists, people that are educated in music, but average people have no idea how this is structured in a society, even in fests, in weddings, or in celebrations, in weddings. I feel that we are in two different camps, that when there's time to celebrate and dance or play music and sing, it's like a coincidental event. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And it's not because we share the same ideals, or the same experiences. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, that's my feeling.
Maria wants to say something.
Just a comment on all things said this far. As regards to the first question about our vision, I just hope at some time reaches its adulthood, societal adulthood, because it feels like this is an adolescence stage, trans state to something more ensinidito, and talking as a consumer myself of these trends, of this, I'm kind of fed up. I mean, okay, you live through one experience like this once or twice, but I think for those people who search for a deeper connection with this, with the musical experience, with traveling itself, I think it will reach a moment that this trend will die. I don't know. And I also would very much like to hear your vision. What do you think a healthy future seems like? Thank you.
Well, I've seen, I don't know, Maria and Michalis, I'm sure, are much more well positioned to comment on that, but I've seen many students who come to Athens and to Thessaloniki from Cyprus who first came to the university without really appreciating, that was my impression, Cypriot traditional music. They came to learn Greek traditional music, and through that, they thought their own relation with their own with Cypriot music. So maybe I can also see what Maria says, that this is very much in flux and it's very much dynamic and changing. So I think now a generation of Cypriot musicians who have been trained in a way to really respect their tradition have returned to Cyprus. And this is now the time perhaps to educate other people as well. I agree with Michalis that this is very much about education, because things are happening very fast and we need to be very, very, very consistent with and very conscious about what we do. And you can see this again in what is going on with tourism, with food, and in all other areas, I think. But what is amazing, I found, this is also for me a very new topic. I haven't done research, as I said, like really dedicated, but it's amazing if one thinks that really communal music has this, if you want, this wisdom instilled in it. So this idea of a slow pace of music changing, of course, always, but very slowly, of one needing to really dedicate themselves, to deeply embed themselves in order to be able to become good musicians. These are all there.
Could I ask something to Eleni or to whomever from the group might know? How has this new popularity of music affected, if it has affected the way that musicians themselves play, the groups play the music? Has it changed it? And if yes, in what ways? And maybe what ways the relation of music and dance has changed? Because I'm seeing many new bands that are also coming up, and I'm wondering, for people that I don't know, I don't know every one of you, but I know Lucas and Michalis that you have experience. I'm wondering if you have any, or you, Eleni, to know towards where things are going musically.
Λουκά, έλα, πες και εσύ. Πες την εμπειρία σου.
Πρέπει να πατήσεις unmute.
Ναι,
Τώρα.
ακούτε τώρα. Θα σας πω μια εμπειρία μου που μάλλον διεγείρει και αυτό ερωτήσεις αν δεν απαντάει. Sorry, in English. Okay. About almost 2 decades ago, it was the first time I saw how things are gonna change in Greek Panegyria. It was in Samothraki. I was honored to be invited to join great musicians. It wasn't just a concert like I have played many times in that island. It was the main fest of the locals of the island. It was organized from the municipality. So this is, has to say something. It was their main annual, one of the annuals, but the biggest one, traditional, for the people in Samothraki. Okay, I don't remember if it was a week later or after a few days, another festival would happen. That was a festival of electronic music, rave or whatever it's called. And lots of people all over the from all over the Balkans, not only Greece, were already in the island. And it was the first time I experienced a very huge problem. What happened? It was happening in a square, a central square of the island, and the Fasei people, the people that came to the island mostly for the other festival, the electronic one, were outnumbered compared to the local people. And old ladies, old people, and young from the island came to...
Sorry, Lucas, you mean that the Fasei were more than the locals, right?
Yes, a lot more.
Okay.
A lot more. Probably in other occasions I have played, that wasn't a problem, but this square was not big enough. So all the people that had no experience about this music, for them it was just a happening, a daily happening. So they attended and they were dancing, however what, while we were playing mostly, that's what the municipality called us for, local traditional music from the island to for the local people mostly and whoever. And the locals, especially the old ladies, I saw it with my own eyes, they were bothered. They didn't have enough space to dance and express themselves. So they complained. And I think the mayor himself or somebody from the municipality took the microphone and said something like, I know you want to have fun too, but you know, people cannot dance in this music that they play, so please stay back. And it was a problem. That made me wonder about the future, what's gonna be. This is the first, it comes in my mind for this very interesting conversation today. And about what you said about the so many groups lately that plays traditional music, I agree that people from the universities, young people that finishing these 3, 4 we have universities about that deals also with the traditional music, is a very, very good thing. Is the best thing it's happening is that they are making groups from that students. But what is very, very popular, mainstream, I would say, becomes so popular, are a few bands that it's Fasei bands. I mean, they don't have much connection with tradition. Even the instrumentation, but not only, the way that they perform. I'm not against anything, of course. I'm saying what I see. Maybe they attract more people in this music, but many problems are coming with this. For example, we are facing now problems as even musicians that still play in these places, like at some weddings, you know, they call you to play, for example, music from the islands, Aegean Islands, for example, or maybe Epirotica from Epirus. And people are coming and say, can you play that or this, which is either rebetiko or from completely different region, like the Black Sea, for example. And we don't even have a kemenje or... It's okay, but these things are happening now in Panegyria. And the people would like to listen even the songs that they know, just like they have heard it from Faseico parties. I don't have an answer to. I'm wondering what's happening. I believe that all these are happening from lack of education, musical education, because I don't want to sound like Adorno, but whatever becomes popular, it produces new things that we have to think about. Well, this I don't know what else to say. I have more questions than answers, as you understand.
Okay, yeah. I thought it would be interesting to know your opinion because I think you are playing also like music in occasions like that from the 90s, no? Or even before? Or,
Yes, from the 90s into
90s.
traditional,
Yeah.
Yes, from the 80s with other genders.
Sorry, there was somebody else that had raised her hand before. I see Munir.
There is also a question on the chat by Nikos.
Ah, okay, sorry. Thanks, Eleni. So, good evening. Do the practices, attitudes... Huh? Is Nikos online? Nico, do you want to say it, to connect, to unmute your microphone? Or maybe he... sorry. Okay, he can't. Do the practices, attitudes, or aesthetics associated with Fasei in the Panegyria carry any political implications? This is the question. And I guess Nikos cannot connect. Yeah.
Maybe we should, I can answer, or maybe Munir can, if it's a follow-up to Lucas, and I can answer afterwards, or...
It's not a follow-up. It's up to you.
Okay. Then maybe I can briefly answer Nick's question. For me, yes, it is deeply political, the Faseos thing. I think it's very much connected with this neoliberal thing we are living, this condition of overconsumption over everything. And I think it needs, I mean, I'm not really, I don't think it's only bad, because always from something which is a trend or a fashion, good things can happen. I mean, all these revivals that happen all the time of traditional musics, of different musics, they start as a fashion, but then some people get really involved and engaged, and they commit to them as communities of intention, not communities of origin, but communities of intention. But if one considers this trend within the broader neoliberal context, I think it's deeply concerning, and we have to bear that in mind.
So just on that, Eleni, so you don't, you connect it, so consumism, for example, you don't connect it with that it existed during the times in Greece where the left or more central governments were in power.
Well, the left was in power in the neoliberal condition, no? I think this is a condition which has been really dominant the last decades.
Okay, so you're talking about that, okay.
In general, this slow tourism, slow food, all this is actually cast in the context of this neoliberal condition. So I see affinities there, but for sure it's also the digital, the technology, which is providing tools for further rapidification and so on.
Nico says, I'm asking this because they are often characterized as apolitical.
Yes, true. I don't think the two are mutually, the two are, I think both can be valid. They can be apolitical, but within a very political neoliberal situation, which is really aggressive towards culture.
Munir?
Thank you, Risto. Thank you so much, Dr. Kallimopoulou. It was amazing. And hi, everyone. Great to see some familiar faces. I'm actually writing a dissertation now titled Makam and Belonging in Greece and Turkey. And I was thinking about one of the chapters is titled Faseismo. So I've been thinking a lot about this. And it's and I got some reactions when I told people that I'm studying Faseismo. Some people like hugged me. It's such a, like it's a, bleeding wound as I see it right now.
It's very close to fascism, no?
So, Faseismo. So I just wanted to share my perspective from Turkey because I'm from Turkey and I've been playing a lot of music in Turkey, and the traditional music scene in Turkey is like exact opposite of Greece. And when I first visited Greece like a few years ago as a musician, I was fascinated by it. Like I was like, how come it's possible that all these young people know all these different dances and dancing on the street, and it fascinated me and I loved it. And then I got the question like, how is this possible? What is the historical condition that made it possible as opposed to Turkey, which is more, there is an aspect of state sponsorship in Turkey that kind of deteriorated the traditional music, in my opinion. But what I want to point out here about Faseismo is I see it as a spectrum because when I was in Greece like a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine told me that I became a Faseos to understand Faseismo, and I really agree because I went to a lot of festivals and music workshops all around Greece for the last few years. And the vibe is always important. Even for the musicians, it's important. And it comes from something very nice, something very sweet, actually, I think. It's beautiful that Greece has this. And I think the analogy that I have in mind is became too sweet, that it became like almost um how can I say, like cloyingly sweet, so that it doesn't taste well anymore. It's became too popular. But in its root, that it's amazing that it has this, especially looking from Turkey. It's great that young people are very interested in it. And a friend of mine, for example, a musician, told me that Fasei allow us to, get an earning, like make some money, and they come to our concerts, etc. There is, I think it's a very multi-layered issue. And what I was going to say about this sweetness is about the Fasi is it's like a human condition. We love being in community. We love the feeling of belonging. We love the paneria. We love the dances. It's beautiful. And it became, at one point, it becomes like you invite your friends, and another person invites their friends, and it becomes too much at one point. But I think in this fast-paced neo-colonial capitalist consumption society, everything also changes very fast. So now I know in these music workshops, for example, now Ikaria, Musique Savles became too popular. People are looking for something else. They go to Meronas, they go to Fengaro, they go to Cyprus, and now they are going to be too popular, and maybe Ikaria is going to be less popular next year or something. There is a flow and ebb of these, because also Fasei don't like Fasei, that's yeah, they don't want to be around Fasei. They want to be around locals. But I had a similar experience like you, Luca, in Mesotopos. I was in Lesbos, and with some friends from Lesbos, we went to Mesotopos for a Panayiri. They went there because they told my friends from Lesbos, they told that the locals they're amazing dancers. And we went there to see they dance. And they couldn't dance because of the tourists. Like there was no space enough. So, and I know how unpleasant it is, and I know all the things that we are complaining about. I agree. And also there is another part that I was thinking of, for example, this year it was Toglandi, last year it was Afusis. No, maybe the year before it was something like it's everything changes very fast, and I think it's almost I don't know how to resist that without resisting all aspects of this neoliberal capitalist consumption society that we all live in. So this is and thank you so much, Dr. Kallimopoulou. It was great to hear your talk.
Munir, it was very nice to hear about your work. I didn't know, maybe we can follow up after this talk. But would you like to share maybe how the situation is in Turkey? Because for us, maybe, at least for me personally, is it the Türkü, which is not very popular among the younger generation, or?
Exactly. I mean, I can't imagine like the folk music scene is very limited either to national TV and radio, and the older generations listen to it. And it's a very, how can I say, like refined version of folk music. It's in Greece, what fascinated me at first was all these different islands have their own traditions and this diversity among traditional music. This was amazing. But in Turkey, historically, the state choir and state orchestra performed everything, and it was this is how you perform this, and it kind of killed all these different local traditions, and I think it also killed the attractivity of this musics for young people. It's not cool in Turkey. That's what I mean. But in Greece, it's great that it's cool, but it's becoming too cool now that it's became fascismo, I think. But in Turkey, it's not even that level. Like it's almost non-existent. Of course, I mean it's been changing in the last few years here as well with more international music students coming in, interesting learning Turkish music, and some people play like makam, Ottoman stuff, etc. Like there's of course a scene. It's not non-existent, but when compared to Greece, my friends from Turkey they come to Labyrinth or Music Village to learn makam, for example. I mean, my teacher, for example, my favorite teacher is Haris Lambrakis and Evgenios Bulgaris. I love to learn makam from them. I study makam with them. And this is a huge topic, of course, and I hope to write this year and finish. I hope that you'll be interested in reading. But yeah, there's a very different scenery in Turkey when we compare it to Greece.
Thank you, Munir. Somebody wants to ask something or comment something? Okay, Michalis.
I don't know if there is any time left, unless, yeah, is it okay to?
Yeah.
I found a very intriguing and interesting connection between physics and music. There's a phenomenon in physics, in quantum physics anyway, where if you want to observe an electron which has a dual condition, a dual nature, wave or particle, you have to choose your perspective. You have to choose a point of view. You cannot observe both conditions of an electron or any subatomic particle. If you're trying to observe one nature, the other is being absent. Is like a miracle. It's like non-existing. So it's all about experiencing, I think. And all this problem with Facet, and I think there's another problem as well, which is on another level, the conservatives of this syllogy, these folk organizations that they want to preserve tradition and all these things. So there are the two poles, let's say, and the more Facet exists, the more conservatives the other side is, and this brings a very dangerous equilibrium. It's like it's like a bomb ready to explode. So I don't know. I think my perspective is just to experience things, just to be in one position of those, and just be there. Not try to imagine that you are in different positions as an observer. the one that films, or the one that sings, or the one that dances or writes a dissertation. So there's always in time one position, and I think this is the most important element to, you know, this local phenomenon, Eleni, to become again alive and meaningful to all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Michalis. Yes, because I mean, I was also wondering, like the traditional, let's say, more historically, like I mean, what does that mean? But the original context of the panegyri normally is restrained to a village, right? And it's the public is mainly from the village. Is that right, Eleni? Or some invited people, but they would not outnumber the locals, right?
Yes, I mean, as I said, my own impression is that the scale has changed.
Yes.
I mean, not that there were not flows or
I can say something. It's not only the scale that has changed. I mean, if we think it in terms of how big it was, but also to whom it was, to who was it connecting together, not the community. I think maybe many things have changed apart from the apart from the people that live supposedly in the village, but the way they live also has changed. So in the last decades, for example, there has been so many changes to try to reconstruct like the original panegyri, how it was done. Maybe it's near to impossible. Maybe it happens at some time, for example, to have a festival like that looks like what happened 15 years ago, but by definition that can't happen. So also connected with you know, with your first question, like ways to go forward towards a more sustainable or future. For me, it would have to include that some changes have to be made in terms of, okay, if everything else is changing, you cannot do the same thing exactly and wait to have expect to have the same result. So in this case, for me, change is not something bad, as long as you know what you want to succeed, more or less. If you know what's important for you and what is not important. And for example, if you're in a concert hall and you go to listen to a concert, there is an organizer and there are some rules that you know, Fasei, for example, or whatever, cannot just enter in the podium or in the stage and start dancing. I mean, it's not chaotic. It has some rules, no? And I think the fact that the panegyri, in a sense, it had some rules, but it possibly were shared between a community and they didn't have to be explained every time, was making it possibly more successful. But when you have so much popularity and people come that don't know the rules, and by definition there is not a police officer that say, okay, you're in a panegyri, come. No, it's this chaotic thing that in Greece or other places we like also, that things are created by the community. I think it would be very interesting to just find ways of communicating these rules, not in a strict way, but just educating, as Lucas was saying. No? My small experience, I mean, just a little note, the photo in the beginning, because you wrote like Hudetsi Festival in the Labyrinth, Catalonia, this photo was from Hudetsi again, it's from Steki, it's from Semeli, it's just a small note. It is the class of Omer Dogdular, the new teacher. My very small experience here is that because we have a weekly, the last years we've made things with music and dance. Of course, it's not a traditional panegyri, but for me there is something very interesting and very moving and very inspiring to see the connection between music and dance, and of course bring a different community, of course, because we are not in Greece, we are not in a village, we're not in a place where there's a local community. But there is a meeting, it is a meeting of musicians that are interested in different types of music that are related with dance and dancers that want to dance. And most of the times it depends of many things are depending on the organizer. I mean, how you organize, if there is a group of people that are organizing towards where they will guide the energy, or if it's outside, or if it's in the village center, or if it's in nature, etc. And because we have actually to reconstruct the whole thing, it's interesting because we have some more freedom, because you don't have like the locals that are, it's the way it was done, but you can convert it or divert it to different places. And here I've seen that the people are organizing, because also we're organizing Labyrinth here, it's very important. But of course it's something also different. And the last note I would make is that, I mean, when we're talking about the traditional panegyric, and then we're talking about music village and Labyrinth, for example, or other places, I think there are obvious differences, because, no, by definition, it's a different context. And I don't, I mean, the fact that in all those places we're talking about music students also that go to learn something, it's a bit different from people where, you know, the public goes just to maybe drink or dance, mate, etc. No, so it's but it's interesting the connections that can be between them. Yes.
Just a quick note, there are two questions. Yes, I agree with you, Christos. And of course, ethnomusicologists are not there to judge, to say that this is bad or this is not bad. And of course, we should not romanticize the old times, because tradition is also a very cruel thing. It can be very exclusionary. But I think the important thing here, the important word is agency. So who gets to, you know, lay down the rules? I think it is important that the people who foster and foster a tradition have to have the agency to decide what strategically is for them works at this point in the present. I think that is important.
But you know what? When the municipality comes and the demos, no, and they organize something, many times it's very impersonal. So I would think also it would be very nice if we, or the people, like dancers, musicians, organize themselves panegyria. That could be very, they could make a change, because they could guide maybe they're already doing it, I don't know. But they could guide like the energy and the activities towards where they think it's important, and not the municipality, or especially if it's disconnected from people. So sorry, I'm seeing so many hands. Sorry, I don't know who went first, but Amalia, maybe we had Vasiliki and Evangelia then.
Yes, hi. I shouldn't talk, but I will. My name is Amalia. I'm a musician. I'm a cellist, cello player, and I'm a singer also at Panegyria and stuff like that. I used to live in Thessaloniki, now I live in Crete in Chania. So I would like to say two things. I'm also a millennial, and the word facet became popular and was started to be used. I'm sorry if I'm yelling. I don't do it on purpose. The term facet was used in from my generation. It started, I think, I haven't done any research, but it's my experience. It was not used about people at the beginning that were going to Panegyria and had this relationship with tradition. It was used, I think, for people that went to Socrates, Malamas, Thanas Papakonstantinou, these kind of concerts that were at the beginning for a little part of the population, okay? And they started to be very popular and stuff, and people came and they didn't know the lyrics, they were dancing and they were drinking and they were doing other stuff illegal, and didn't pay attention at the thing that was happening. So, okay, the etymology of the word is correct, the people that go for the vibe, but I think it started with a very negative, it was a negative epithet.
Connotation.
Yes.
people. One is this. I know that it has been 30 years since then, so things have changed and we can use the words, but I wanted to put it as a bit of a thing. And the second thing that I would like to say is that there are two very different kinds of tourism. I don't think that we can discuss with the same way the Greeks that go to the islands at the Kapendavustos and go to the Panegyria, that also go to the Panegyria in the winter in Athens and in Thessaloniki and keep this Phaseiki logic, the Phaseos logic, okay, all year long, because the bands that play at the Panegyria in the cities at the winter, I have observed that these are the bands that have changed the songs and played in a very particular way with not studying music, very simple, very so that people just go to dance and have fun in the winter. And it's a different panegyri show, the one that's happening in the city, and a different panegyri that's one happening at the island in the summer. Okay. Also, there are very different people, in my opinion, the Greeks that go to these two panegyria, also in winter and in summer, and the foreign people that come from Europe and from other places of the world and become Fasei and go in the panegyria and dance with, like someone said before, they know nothing and they just want to have fun, and sometimes they bother also. I don't say it in a bad way. I just think that there are two different kinds of tourism in order to help the way we think about that. Okay, and also I would like to say that our tradition is a gift for the tourists. We don't care. Here in Chania, it's October and you cannot imagine how many tourists are here. You cannot imagine that we cannot find a place to go to listen to traditional Greek, traditional Cretan music in the city. We go at the villages, but if we find it, we cannot find a place to play traditional music, not Cretan. I don't play this music, but other stuff. And everything is not a gift. We sell it to the tourists that come here. So, okay, maybe we love our tradition and we want to have a relationship with traditional Greek music, but not all the Greeks do that. And now I'm shutting up. Goodbye.
Amalia, can I ask you something very shortly? Why do you say you can't find a place to play since there are so many tourists that are interested in listening?
Because the tamagazia, the places that play music,
the venues,
yes, have a very, very specific thing that they want to say, Cretan music with lira and very specific songs, very specific. They eat moussaka and they hear these 5 pedouzalia and stuff, and it's not what I'm used to in Thessaloniki, that we can go and find original. Our people that play, our friends that are musicians and play. That's what I'm saying. Bye again.
Okay, thank you, Amalia.
Yes, I agree with just one quick point before Vasiliki. I agree with Amalia. I think Munir's notion here, of course, in such a few I could not, open the palette, but I think Munir's concept here of a palette, of a range of different practices and behaviors is very pertinent here, yes. Vasiliki, maybe.
Yes, hi. I'm Vasiliki. I'm a postgraduate student of the Music Science and Art Department in Thessaloniki. Eleni was my teacher in ethnomusicology, and not really in this course, but in the first Greek traditional music. So maybe I have a general note to make. I think that it is all about a change, a dynamic change of social relationships within the community. What I mean is that I have the sense that we must have a vision because the relationships within the community, they are reformed. I think that's the new thing. in the last decades. And so we have to reconsider the balance of power among the member, that it has changed, the roles, the responsibilities that evolve, and the participation. All of these things are redistributed. Maybe new forms of communication are coming up. So I think that it has a lot to do with relationships, because after all, music is the means, for community music and traditional music like panegyria, etc. So I'm not really very keen on this old style traditional music. The conservative thing that we have to maintain, we have to keep it in a box and not change it. And I have seen from my experience, like a music teacher in schools recently, that the young people, they like this kind of music, but we have to maybe bring it more close to their interests and more close to their vision and to this time. So, and I remember it was really funny for me, because in the first lesson, Eleni had the music from Villagers of Ioannina in the university. And, I was trying to find out, wow, that's a great music. And I liked it. So what I mean is, I don't say that we just have to not preserve some very, very basic elements of traditional music, but we have, to rethink a little bit, reconsider the relationships and why they have to change and why did they change. And when something changes, it means that it had to change. So this is my perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vasiliki. Evangelia, would you like to comment something? You have your hand raised. Okay.
It's on your microphone.
Okay, you have to unmute, yeah. I'm asking you to unmute. You should fire your microphone and click.
Κάτω αριστερά πρέπει να είναι.
If you can't, maybe you want to type your question, or if it's a comment, it will be difficult.
Is there anyone in Spain from people here besides Christos?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think this is a good example of the transnational communities that we were speaking of.
Okay. Evangelia is joining from another device.
Yes, sorry about that. Wait, I have to close the other.
Wait, I will throw the other Evangelia out. Okay.
Panigiri vibes.
Yes, it's the reverb that you have to listen to get doing the panigiri vibe. Sorry about that. I was in another device and it had to allow the microphone to access. Sorry. Eleni, thank you very much. It was a very nice presentation, very interesting, very hot, very in topic, very sexy. And it's nice to hear everybody's opinions. It's very nice to listen to very contradictory opinions and thoughts on this matter. I just wanted to say quickly just on one or two of my thoughts, because I have also been following the phenomenon of facet for the last years, staying in close and staying also not so close to make relevant assumptions. What I can understand from my point of view is that we cannot draw very clear conclusions about this, because we don't exactly have a sincere thought of what a faseos is. As you know, if you ask people who is a faseos, they cannot really explain. And if a faseos is a faseos, they cannot understand this. This is something that I understood because I think you saw my picture earlier. I was in a field with my laptop. Most of my students, first time that they see me, they say, "Oh, we have a fasea teacher." And I try to explain to them, no, I'm not a fasea. And then I realize that my hair looks like Matula Zamani, my shirts are like villagers of Ioanna City, so I understand the clue. I don't really know how to explain faseos because there are many different types. What I can say from my personal point of view is that this is an urban phenomenon and that is built in urban cities in Greece, only Greece, and it tries to move in rural areas. For me, it's like we're going back to the 70s when everybody was trying to reunite with their roots. It's some kind of that because most of the people say they do this for that. They try to reunite their roots, or they're doing it because everybody's doing that. Everybody goes to Panegyria, everybody's dancing, everybody's drinking Tsipuro, and everybody's drinking Ouzo, even though some years earlier we don't like that. So I believe it's a combination of that. But let's not forget that the main point of this phenomenon that we see is what comes to us through information that derive from the social media and from television. This is not our society. We know that for a fact. If we open the news now, we will hear some things that they don't actually happen. This is actually what is social media. It's just a clue. Now you see part of my house, the rest of my house can be a disaster or can be really different. What I try to say is that we should not be very afraid of that. It might be a trend that will go away, but the thing is that we still have really true panegyria only by locals, very secret, you cannot find them. The hot panegyria, of course, they are learned by the facet, and the locals do want the facet to be drawn to that panegyria because it's the ecosystem, as you said, Eleni. They help the village revive or anything. They help with the economical situation. But it's not that this is the only thing that is happening now. We still have a lot of villages. I tried to go to many places in Greece to see that, and I could find either north, either south, or I haven't been everywhere yet. I could find some panegyria that the locals they don't give so much attention to facet, so they leave immediately. They don't change the repertory. They will not play gledi or anything else. Or if they play gledi one time in the whole night or morning, it will be just for fun, not to be part of the local repertory. So this is my general idea, not to put any more thoughts because I think it went really late.
It is late mainly if you want to go to Irodio, but I know, is it raining?
It's raining a lot.
Raining, sorry. Thank you, Evangelia. Eleni, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Evangelia. I was just thinking, yes, I was thinking that perhaps these examples that you describe from the point of view of this talk could be thought of as good examples of stewardship, of, a host community, having agency over the ways in which it wishes to present its music and experience its music. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay, yes, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, Eleni, for the presentation. I think it is a bit late, so maybe we can close the conversation. Yeah, happy, have a good night, and whoever goes first to a panegyri, let us know the rest, what is your experiences.
Christo, thank you very much for today. I was very happy to be here among friends and colleagues, and I look forward to our next talk, which is
Exactly, yeah, with Sisi Theodosiou in beginnings of November. It's 3rd of November, if not mistaken. It would be Monday. Great. So see you there, whoever will join. Have a good night. Thank you, Eleni.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's very
Bye-bye.
nice.
Thank you.